Senator Simon.
So, Mr. Scott, I want to return to 4.2.2a because you have repeatedly told us that individual TikTokers and YouTubers are not captured by this. But let me reread 4.2.2a. The Commission shall consider the following matters. A, the extent to which a program uploaded onto an online undertaking that provides a social media service directly or indirectly generates revenue. This, apart from the algorithmic question, is, I think, the most contentious part of the entire bill, because it is based on this sentence that we have heard from dozens of digital creators and platforms who've said to us that they are clearly captured by this, that anybody who posts something to YouTube or TikTok or Instagram that even indirectly generates revenue can be regarded as a program that falls under regulation, and that their great fear is that they will lose out on market share in international audiences because they will be forced to be ghettoized into a kind of a CanCon tide pool. So explain to me your great assurance that they are not captured, because that certainly seems to be a widespread interpretation, as Senator Medel-Deschênes has indicated, of 4.2.2a.
So we have, and we will again, and I can add this to my list of small documents that we could follow up with the committee. I will have them to you very, very quickly. I'll ask in a second. I'll ask legal counsel to just try and give you a legal response to how we understand the legislation. So that, and again, it is not our legislation.
I understand.
But what we can answer is how we interpret it. But I would like to go back to the point. I understand the concern, but I've tried to emphasize several times this evening and at other times, we're not interested in individual uploaded content. There is no purpose to regulating it. It would not be in the public interest. It would not contribute to the Canadian broadcasting system. We may well be interested in a platform's activities, not the individual uploaded content.
And yet,
why would we spend all of our time trying to, the poor example, but looking at individual cat video? It's just, it makes no sense from a public policy perspective.
And yet, that is the clear language
if you interpret
of
it
the
that
act.
way. Rochelle, could you just respond to the extent you can?
I can certainly do my best. The way that we understand that particular provision, and you're correct, I mean, the CRTC can prescribe by regulation certain content under very certain specific conditions that are set out in the bill itself, which includes these factors such as generating revenues, whether it's available on other platforms, et cetera. But I think the way that we interpret what's set out in Bill C-11 currently is that there is always this distinction between jurisdiction on the one hand and the exercise of powers on the other. And so while the CRTC may have jurisdiction over certain matters and over certain content, it may not necessarily exercise its powers and enact regulations or regulatory requirements on those subject matters. It can only do so, for example, if it's consistent, for example, with Section 9.4 of the Act, which says that the Commission will only regulate where it has a material impact on the Broadcasting Act. And also, the Commission would only be enacting any particular requirements after a public hearing in which we would hear evidence and hear submissions from parties as to whether or not it is appropriate to be exercising its powers in relation to these particular aspects. And I hope that provides you with some clarity.
It's nice that you're going to choose to interpret the bill in this particular way, but that's not what the language says.